Hi, I'm Benjamin Hunting with AutoBytel, and I'm here in beautiful sunny Sedona, Arizona with the 2016 Land Rover Range Rover Td6. Those numbers and letters at the end of the name, Td6, refer to the fact that this is the first diesel-powered version of this generation Range Rover to make it to the United States. Now, I know there's been a lot of furor over diesel technology these days, and in fact, if you are viewing this video from the future as a historical document, you're well aware of the problems that have been encountered by other manufacturers like Volkswagen with regards to emissions. And there's been a whole scandal. Are diesels clean? Are diesels going to be a part of the future in America? Is it just going to be hybrids and gas models from now on? All of that aside, it's important to note that this version of the Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport, which also offers diesel power from the same engine, they were approved by the EPA for use in the United States the day before the scandal broke. So the plans were well in motion, everything is ready to go, and it's not Land Rover's fault that Volkswagen told a few white lies to a few government regulators. Controversy aside, why would Land Rover want to get involved in the diesel business in the United States to begin with? You have to look at the numbers. In America, diesel sales are a tiny percentage of passenger cars, but globally, 50% of everything Land Rover sells has a diesel engine under the hood. And if you go to Europe, that number jumps to 90%. They see a growing market in the United States. Maybe it's not going to match what they're doing in Europe or worldwide, but there's still potential for growth for this vehicle. And the answer as to why people are opting for diesel over a traditional gas power plant from Land Rover is fuel mileage. This thing, as heavy as it is, roughly 5,000 pounds, will get 29 miles per gallon on the highway with the 3-liter turbocharged diesel V6 under its hood. It'll also get 25 combined. These numbers blow away even the base V6 model of the Range Rover or the Range Rover Sport. And in fact, you don't have to pay a lot of money in order to access that kind of efficiency. It's $1,500 roughly to upgrade from the base 340 horsepower supercharged gas V6 to the 254 horsepower, 440 pound-foot of torque 3-liter turbo diesel engine that comes with the Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport Td6. Land Rover claims that over the course of a year, you're going to spend $450 less at the fuel pump compared to the supercharged V6 version of this car, simply because of how efficient it is. So if you're doing the math, that means in about 3 years you'll have paid for the cost differential. That's assuming, of course, that diesel prices stay below premium gas, which the other versions of the Range Rover and Range Rover Sport need. 254 horsepower and 440 pound-feet of torque are fairly impressive numbers for a diesel engine. This is, however, a very heavy vehicle, and it also comes with permanent four-wheel drive. Two things that any engineer is going to have to overcome if they hope to balance out efficiency with performance. On the highway, you really feel the torque. You notice the acceleration between 55, 75 miles per hour. Around town, however, it's a little lazier, it's a little more laid back. Jaguar claims they've tuned the vehicle in order to satisfy an American audience rather than the Europeans that have had this engine for quite some time. However, I have to say that compared to, say, a Mercedes-Benz SUV or even the Grand Cherokee from Jeep, which is a Fiat-sourced V6 turbo diesel engine now, it's not as an immediate feeling when you hit the gas. It doesn't give you that surge forward that both of those other brands can provide. It's not a bad experience by any means, and in fact what the most impressive aspect of this drivetrain has been, it's not necessarily straight line performance, although 0 to 60 takes you about 7 seconds. It's the fact that when you're inside the Range Rover or the Range Rover Sport, you cannot tell that you're driving a diesel. There's no clatter, there's no additional noise, it's vault-like. I had someone tell me yesterday their impression of the car was, if you're tired of driving your Rolls Royce because it's too noisy, buy a Range Rover, get the diesel, and you'll be much happier. When you're outside of the vehicle, you can tell there's a little bit of clatter, but at the same time, it's not the kind of thing where you're going to pull up at the country club and everyone's going to turn, stare at your Range Rover, and be like, why didn't he just get the supercharged V8? It's a nice package, it's well engineered, and it really keeps the personality and the character of the Range Rover and the Range Rover Sport intact. Now, as absurdly luxurious as Land Rover products typically are, and the Range Rover is at the peak of absurdly luxurious, these vehicles aren't just about giving you a cushy ride around town, which is in fact why we're in Sedona. This thing is virtually unstoppable on an off-road trail. Even though it's big, even though it's heavy, the amount of expertise that's been stuffed inside of it, the engineering, the electronic aids, the fact that this thing could almost drive itself down a trail, get you from point A to point B no matter what's in between, that was proven to us a couple of times today. We did some very long off-roading trails, not necessarily the kind of stuff that's extremely challenging for a vehicle like this, but just to give you an impression of how the diesel engine helps you out on the trail, all that torque's available well below 2,000 RPM. And when you're on the trail and you don't want to be revving the engine up in order to access the power you need to climb over the next rock, you want to be able to just dip into the throttle, grab the torque, and move forward with as little wheel spin as possible. And that's exactly the experience we had with the Range Rover today and yesterday with the Range Rover Sport. Now, I began this video talking about the Volkswagen emissions scandal related to their diesels, and emissions are in everyone's mind at the forefront when talking about turbo diesels right now and probably for the near future. This vehicle doesn't just come with a DEF injection system, that's a diesel exhaust fluid that combines with a catalytic converter to reduce NOx emissions to almost zero, but there's a new low pressure EGR that takes low temperature, low pressure exhaust gases, re-injects them into the mix, and it's done in such a way that it doesn't have any impact on how the turbocharger works with the diesel engine. So you're not getting the same kind of lag you might have or reducing the pressure in the turbo itself, but by using low pressure gases, you're able to improve the amount of scavenging that occurs and create a cleaner burn all around. Long story short, Jaguar has put a lot of money into making sure that they will never have any kind of issues with the EPA or in Europe or in whatever far-flung republic that they might end up selling this vehicle. It's a clean diesel, as clean as it's going to get for a vehicle this size. It's a very capable diesel with the 7,716 pounds of towing capacity, and it's 32% more fuel efficient than the V6 model. Taken together, this is a very impressive package, and it's one that's no doubt going to catch the attention of Eurocentric SUV buyers who've been craving a diesel from Land Rover, but simply haven't been satisfied until now.